All right, today we're going to get into the circulatory system. All right, so the main functions of the circulatory system is to, when you look at the word circulatory, it's like circulating things. So it's transporting oxygen, nutrients, and other substances throughout the body, and it's also going to remove waste products like carbon dioxide from your tissues and cells. So the human body contains millions of cells that are not obviously in direct contact with the external environment. Because of this, humans need a circulatory system. So again, the circulatory system again is transporting oxygen, nutrients, other substances, and removing waste, since our cells are not exposed to the external environment. So it's kind of like the streetways of a city, where you have all sorts of things being transported from one area to another. All right, so we're going to focus on the heart right now. How does the heart pump through the body? It uses a powerful contraction. The heart is a muscle that's continuously working nonstop from the day you're born till the day you die. So your heart is composed of, again, mostly entirely muscle. The muscle begins contracting again, this morbid before you are born, and stops only when you die. There's basically 4 chambers in the human heart. There's a wall called the septum that separates the right side from the left side. So the septum prevents any sort of oxygen poor blood and oxygen rich blood from mixing, because the right side of your heart is where the oxygen poor blood comes in, and then the oxygen rich blood comes in on the left hand side of your heart. So when you look at the heart here, the upper chambers are called the atrium, and the lower chambers, which are thicker, are called the ventricles. So the ventricles are thicker because that's the part of the heart that's mostly doing the pumping. When you're looking at circulation, there's one pump that pushes blood to the lungs, while the other pump pushes blood to the rest of your body. So these 2 pathways are called pulmonary circulation. That's the one that goes to your lungs. So here's your pulmonary artery, and capillaries that go to the left lung. Capillaries that go to the right lung. So that's the pulmonary arteries, or the artery, while the rest of your circulation is the systemic circulation. So a little more about pulmonary circulation. The right side of the heart pumps oxygen poor. So here's oxygen poor blood, where your veins are bringing back oxygen poor blood from your body to the right side of your heart. So from the right side of the heart, the pulmonary artery brings this oxygen poor blood to your lungs, because this is where your lungs will be the place where the blood gets oxygenated again. So in the lungs, carbon dioxide that's in this oxygen poor blood diffuses from the blood and then into your lungs, and then you would breathe that out, and then it's going to pick up oxygen from the lungs, and then it's going to deliver it to the left-hand side of the heart right here. The systemic circulation, the left side of the heart, this left ventricle here, is going to pump oxygen-rich blood through the aorta, which is the main artery that comes off the heart. The systemic system, again, is delivering oxygen-rich blood to the rest of your whole body for your cells to use. So the systemic system is way bigger than the pulmonary system, because the systemic system is going through the whole body, while the pulmonary one is just going to your lungs. So cells absorb much of the oxygen and load the blood with carbon dioxide. So once this systemic circulation has delivered all of your oxygen-rich blood, well, that blood is now going to become oxygen poor because it delivered the oxygen to your cells. So this now oxygen poor blood returns to the right side, like here the supravena cava returns back to the right side, so then it can get blood again, or it could get oxygen again from your lungs. So blood vessels, there's 3 main types of blood vessels you have in your system for certain purposes here. So again, oxygen-rich blood leaving the left ventricle passes the aorta. The aorta is the first series of vessels that carries blood through the systemic circulation and back to the heart. So blood flows through arteries, capillaries, and then veins. So arteries are the large vessels that carry blood from the heart to the tissue. So it's carrying oxygen-rich blood in the arteries. So except for the pulmonary artery, all arteries carry oxygen-rich blood. So arteries mean when blood is being pumped away from the heart. So all arteries have oxygen-rich besides the pulmonary, because the pulmonary artery is the vessel where you're carrying oxygen-poor blood to your lungs. So then that blood can get reoxygenated in the lungs. Arteries, because they are withstanding that pressure from the left ventricle that's pumping all the blood to the rest of your body, arteries have to be thick and like elastic, they're walls, so they can withstand that powerful force. Other thing to know, the coronary artery, so coronary, when you hear like coronary means heart. So this is the artery that brings blood to the actual heart muscle. So the heart muscle obviously needs oxygen to work. So when this artery gets clogged, that's when you're at risk for a heart attack, because then your heart muscle won't get the oxygen it needs, and it won't be able to contract or work to pump blood to the rest of your body. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessel. Most capillaries are about like a cell thick. They blood cells will pass through them in like a single file. So the reason why is that the capillaries are the arteries or the vessels where oxygen and carbon dioxide, like oxygen is diffusing into your body cells, while carbon dioxide is diffusing from your body cells to your blood. So you need a really thin wall in order for this exchange of oxygen and nutrients and carbon dioxide to happen. Veins are when you have oxygen poor blood, they are returning that oxygen poor blood to the heart, so then it can get reoxygenated in the lungs. So we often show veins being blue, but that's just oxygen poor blood is kind of a dark purple color, when oxygen rich blood is kind of a brighter red color. So veins look kind of blue based on how the wavelength of light, or how light interacts with the oxygen poor blood and through your skin. So they're not actually like blue. Interesting thing about veins, well, veins have to mostly work against gravity, so especially the ones that are in your leg, because it has to get the blood up to your veins here to your heart. So they have to work against gravity. So many veins are located near and between skeletal muscles. So when you contract them, those muscles help squeeze up the blood through your veins, almost like squeezing toothpaste through the tube. So exercising helps force blood through the veins, especially the veins that are more like your deep veins, not so much your superficial veins or the ones near your skin. Exercising also keeps the walls around your veins strong, and it keeps blood from accumulating and stretching veins. When that happens, you get those varicose veins, those like ropey veins that you see some people have. So most veins have a little valve that kind of prevents a backflow of blood, but those can actually kind of stop working, especially as kind of you get older, or just due to like to your genetics, and that again can cause varicose veins. Blood pressure. Okay, so most of you maybe have heard your parents talking about their blood pressure or getting their blood pressure checked. But when the heart contracts, it produces a wave of fluid pressure in the arteries known as blood pressure. So although blood pressure falls when the heart relaxes between beats, the system still remains under pressure due to the elasticity of your arterial walls. So without any sort of pressure, your blood would stop flowing. So you need some blood pressure. So you could have high blood pressure would be if you eat too much salt, because your body is going to be accumulating more fluid, and that can be kind of detrimental to your arteries. So you want to keep your blood pressure in check. So blood pressure is higher in arteries because of the force of the heart's pumping, and less with blood returning to the heart and veins. So your blood pressure is pretty quite lower in your veins than in your arteries. It can be affected negatively by atherosclerosis, which is the fancy way of saying clogging of arteries, because there's not as much space to move through. So when you have something going through a tighter space like that, you're going to have a pressure buildup. It is highest as it travels through the arteries. So this is why when you hear like 120 over 80, that 120 number is the top number, which is your systolic pressure, which is the pressure that's in your arteries, and then the diastolic pressure is the bottom reading. So that one is lower. All right, and then also just FYI, blood cells. Main functions of your blood cells are to fight infection. So in your blood, specialized blood cells called white blood cells, so they are involved with your immune system. Your red blood cells are used to transport oxygen and carbon dioxide around. You regulate body temperature, so your body's going to kind of see what temperature your body is, and if you need to kind of warm yourself up, warm blood is going to go towards the surface of the skin. And it's obviously transporting nutrients through your blood to your different cells, so it can be transported and diffused into your cells and tissues. All right, we're going to start in the next one on the respiratory system.